it is time finally for me to get some answers. Those of you that watched my last video know that I do have some burning questions that need answering on the events of 9/11, and one of the biggest ones that I have is, where did all the planes go when the US airspace was closed down? I know they were diverted. Where did they go? How did they get permission? I want to know. So today I have been recommended by one of you guys a documentary on what is called Operation Yellow Ribbon. Is that right? Yes, Operation Yellow Ribbon, which should hopefully explain everything that I need to know in regards to diverted planes and Canada. Yes. It's on YouTube, 43 minutes long, so I'm hoping to get this done all in one quick video and bring you guys along with me as usual. So without wasting any more time, let's go.
Mentioned earlier that Tom Brokaw had an extremely compelling
All right,
piece,
here
so
we
without
go.
further ado, Tom
Answers
Brokaw.
time.
Now this devastating between this country, Canada, and the U.S., of course. The ties between the United
Look at
States
these
and
bad
Canada
boys that I found
are long
earlier.
and enduring, and not just in good times, it turns out. Unprecedented crisis in the skies. They also took care of
Okay, they're pretty cringy.
thousands of displaced passengers who arrived at their doorstep on short notice. This is the story of one small town that didn't get the attention it deserved in the chaotic aftermath of 9/11.
So the story is based in one little town in Canada. Let's go.
September 11th, 2009.
What were they?
What makes this ceremony different is where it's taking place. This is the Appleton Peace Park near the town of Gander in Newfoundland, Canada,
Little cowbells.
where during the tragedy of 9/11, there was a bright light on the better part of our humanity.
If this place can be somehow shared with the world
Gander.
would be a much better place.
With everyday Canadians who acted with admirable, unwavering kindness.
Okay. God bless Canada. The 51st state of America.
September 11th, when terrorists hijacked airliners loaded with passengers and jet fuel, flew them into the World Trade Center and killed 3,000 people,
This guy's voice.
altering the lives of an untold number of others. And it had a special impact on a small Canadian town 1,000 miles north of here. A town that became
Okay.
a safe port
Get to
in
it,
a
get to it.
storm of fear, terrorism.
You've got me hyped. I'm invested. Let's go.
The province of Newfoundland and Labrador has long been considered Canada's poorest. Neighbors relying on neighbors is a necessity
Canada
of
is
everyday
such
life.
a big country.
Gander, population 10,000.
And
is a small,
the population is
two-stoplight
actually less
town
than
in
the UK.
northeast corner of the island of Newfoundland. Claude Elliott has been mayor of Gander since 1996.
We only have 500,000 people on a massive island. We've come through some difficult times.
But September 11th, 2001 dawns warm and sunny. A typically bucolic day that will be anything but typical.
What does bucolic
Its
mean?
citizens to be challenged as never before.
I had my car radio and I heard what was going on. And like a lot of people, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I said, that can't be true. It just can't be.
Constables? One of the bobbies? I used to be in the police, believe it or
It is
not.
such a pretty morning, isn't it?
One whole year.
On that September morning, air traffic control veteran Ben Sliney is on his first day in his new position as FAA National Operations Manager.
That's crazy. I've actually read and learned since I watched that movie in 1993 that him, he and a lot of the other people in the film actually play themselves. Like the guy in the film is him.
We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
We saw what appeared to be a fireball at the top of the World Trade Center.
We had reports of another aircraft that had deviated from its course.
You can just tell by his voice. Got a great voice.
U.S. officials say it appears it was a
Good
third
actor as well,
plane that
as
hit
it turns
the
out.
Pentagon.
I ordered a national ground stop, meaning that no other aircraft could take off.
Then again, if you're just playing
56
yourself,
minutes
are you
after the
really
North
acting?
Tower is struck, an unprecedented decision has been made. Every non-military plane must land immediately. For the first time ever, American airspace is closed.
Okay, but what time did that happen? I think it was like
This is
midday.
war.
The only way to really sort the situation out was to land everyone in our airspace.
The FAA now says that all international flights headed for the United States are being diverted to Canada.
It makes sense. I mean, if you're flying from Europe, I think
Every day,
you more or less go
transatlantic
over Canada
flights enter
anyway.
and leave North American airspace. They are managed here, the Area Control Center in Gander, Newfoundland. On September 11th, when U.S. airspace is shut down, there are almost 400 planes carrying tens of thousands of passengers westbound over the Atlantic. Around 200 are close enough to return to Europe.
When did you begin to be aware of what was about to happen at Gander?
I knew that the Canadians were going to get an onslaught of traffic, and I suppose I hoped that they'd be able to handle that traffic.
A small team led by Don O'Brien, the supervisor on duty at the control center for NAV Canada,
Oh, wow.
the Canadian version of the FAA.
By the way, guys,
We
you've got
normally would have
170
three
jets incoming.
controllers seated. We quickly went to 14.
Good luck.
We train for emergencies. We train for bomb threats, but usually it's a single airplane or maybe a second one, maybe, but not to this level. The activity was going on here.
Was another part of your mind thinking about what had happened in New York?
Sure, some of those airplanes could have been missiles. We didn't know how extensive this was, but that wasn't our call, really. We just had to get those airplanes on the ground safely.
So we're sitting there cruising westbound and looking out the window, and you can actually see them turn and make 180s and head back to Europe.
Damn.
Newfoundland is an island located off the eastern edge of North America.
I wonder what they were told on the flight.
Over the next 7 hours, Gander Control and the surrounding airports will handle unprecedented traffic under extreme emergency conditions.
Gander Air India 113, we go to Toronto. The Air India 113 Center, negative. You must now land at Gander, turn right heading 320. After turning right
Attention
heading 320.
passengers. The United States has closed. We are heading back to Europe.
Flight paths must be recalculated. This is an actual radar tape from that morning.
Oh.
Now you're starting to turn them toward Gander.
Yes, we got the word, of course, and
Holy
we had to
fuck.
peel them all northward into Gander, St. John's.
That's gotta be
and Seaton.
sped up.
Some of them knew there was activity going on in Kennedy, and there was a crisis in American airspace. Some of them
That
didn't.
definitely
We were
is.
telling them, look, you got to land. They're saying, no, we're going on to Kennedy or Dallas or wherever. They said, no, you're not.
In the air, as they learn the shocking details, captains worry their own planes could be carrying hijackers, forcing many to hide the truth from their passengers.
Just don't open the cockpit door.
And announced that we had a slight mechanical problem, something to do with an indicator signal or something like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, our
State,
indicator bulb is not
returning
working.
home
We're
from
turning
Frankfurt,
back to
Germany,
Europe.
on board Delta Flight 15.
Once we got parked, the captain came back on the intercom, apologized to us for the ruse.
3 aircraft that we know of were commandeered. One was crashed into each of the World Trade Center towers in New York City, and another was crashed into the Pentagon outside Washington, D.C.
Apparently some type of what would appear to be maybe a terrorist activity or hijacking has occurred with airplanes which apparently have impacted the World Trade Center in New York City.
8 domestic flights are scheduled to land in Gander. Instead, 38 planes carrying almost 7,000 people are beginning to fill the tarmac. Oz Fudge is one of just 2 officers on the local police force.
I watched the plane come in, then I seen a jumbo come in, and then I seen another one come in. And
Oz
I'm looking at
Fudge.
this and I'm saying, holy God.
Less than 2 hours after American Flight 11 strikes the North Tower of the World Trade
What are they
Center,
going to do with them all?
the skies over the United States are empty. For the first time, American airspace is completely closed.
Damn.
In Canada, the Gander Area Control Center somehow lands all 167 planes without incident.
Because if they don't have Canadian passports, what can they do? They're not allowed to leave the airport. Surely.
They all got in safely, and it was unbelievable to go from this horrific activity, and then the airspace is completely sterilized.
I wonder what would happen if you owned your own little plane, like a little Cessna, and you were like, screw it, I'm going to go up, I'm going to have a little flight.
In New York,
would it show up on their radar? Would you get in trouble?
For the survivors and the victims goes on and on.
Couple of F-18s on you.
In New York, citizen volunteers are flooding toward Ground Zero as emergency workers search for survivors. 1,000 miles from the destruction, the 10,000 residents of the peaceful Canadian town of Gander, with virtually no time to prepare, must also respond with countless acts of generosity, providing food and shelter. Among the stranded, far from home, are the parents of a New York City fireman. Not knowing if their son is at Ground Zero, Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke fear they may never see him again. Gander was an airport before it was a town. In the late 1930s, British and American military officials...
That makes sense, because earlier on I was going to say their airport and their control center looks bigger than the town itself.
During World War II...
Makes sense that it started as an airport.
After the war, Gander continued to play a vital role as a refueling stop for transatlantic
This guy's so awkward, he's so stiff.
But then, the jumbo jets came along until September 11th.
Don't need them anymore.
When Gander came alive again. In Gander, no one is allowed off the planes until customs and security are in place.
Okay.
Until authorities are certain there are no terrorists on board. Among the trapped passengers is New York State Police Officer George Vitale. There is another New York couple on the Gander tarmac whose connection to the events back home couldn't be more personal.
I just wanted to get off the plane and see what was happening, because I was hoping my son wasn't working that day.
Well, what did he do? What was his job?
When they learn what has happened, they fear for their 44-year-old son, Kevin O'Rourke, a firefighter from Rescue 2 in Brooklyn.
Jesus.
Yes, it goes back
That's not good.
years to when I was a kid. The apartment building I lived in, over the years I was in, it ended up having 3 different fires, so I was carried out as a
Is that him?
by
a month before?
by a firefighter. So I had fond memory, I had memories to go back to, all of a sudden, in the
Look at that mustache. That's how you can tell he's a good firefighter.
Gander begins the process of absorbing all those passengers.
Now, Gander is a town of barely 10,000 people. There was over 6,000 of us. Now, if you extrapolate the numbers, New York City is 8 million people, so what's that? 6 million people showing up on your door saying, okay, we're here, do something.
The painstaking process of registering and removing each passenger continues through the night.
Finally, we're free, we're free. We're on the ground after more than 24 hours. We have no idea where we're going, but we're going.
Free to do what?
It is not until noon on Wednesday, September 12th.
Are you allowed to go into town?
Passengers are finally allowed into the Gander terminal.
Okay, they're allowed off the plane into the terminal. It took a day to do that.
We're not sure when the FAA is going to open up the United States to travel again. The Department of Transportation in Canada has all air traffic in Canada shut down right now. When you see the footage of what has happened, you'll appreciate why things have been done the way they are.
Did he say Canadian air
The only
travelers
vehicles
stopped as
available
well?
to transport the great volume of passengers from the airport are school buses, and the local bus drivers happen to be on strike.
And we all came back and we did our job.
Good guys.
They laid down their picket signs, they went and took their buses and they drove it, and for the next 4 or 5 days just helped out wherever they could. And that's what we're made of. That's the type of people we are. Even though those bus drivers had a dispute with their employer, they had no dispute with the people that landed here.
We'll do the best we can to look after this. If there's anything you need, anything at all, I mean anything, just ask.
So where are they
You will
taking
be
them?
taken care of, bottom line.
The locals rush to meet them with home-cooked meals. Among
These
them
polite
is
Canadians.
lifelong Gander resident Beulah Cooper, an organizer at the Canadian Legion Hall.
7 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from the Legion asking me to do a tray of sandwiches. They have them down there by 8 o'clock. I didn't know what was going on.
To be fair, this
Know
is
how
probably
you
the most exciting thing that's ever happened in
Currently,
this
there are
town,
thousands
so...
of people in Gander and surrounding area that need your help. Please come to their assistance, lend a hand, lend a meal.
Passengers are not allowed to remove their check bags from the plane, so the clothes on their backs and in their carry-ons may be all they'll have for days. Ganderites respond, donating clothing and opening their shops free of charge.
I think I'd rather just keep my clothes on for a few days and wear
Passengers
somebody
are
else's.
also without their prescriptions until owners of the 2 local pharmacies working day and night and across language barriers can fill them all again at no cost.
They were able to go into the stores and just take items off the shelves.
What was a language barrier?
Even with
French?
all the kitchens firing around town, the local citizens cannot possibly feed 7,000 people. The Red Cross and Salvation Army send additional food and supplies. Another problem. Gander has only 500 hotel beds for almost 7,000 unexpected guests.
Oh wow,
Local
okay.
schools, churches, and Legion halls must be converted into makeshift dormitories filled with sleeping bags, blankets, and cots.
Wait, when was this? September
It is
11th?
only as the passengers are settled around Gander that they see for the first time images of the
I
devastation
wonder how
back
cold it was at that time.
You can't miss that.
You could see that look in their faces of total lost. We don't know what's happening. They're in a place called Gander. Their country has been attacked.
Here's Ozfudge.
They're talking thousands of people that may have perished. What's happening? What is happening here?
Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke are staying at the Canadian Legion Hall in Gander. By now, they've learned that their son Kevin had been one of the early responders at the World Trade Center and that he is among the missing.
I seen on the TV what happened to the Twin Towers. And I didn't want to alarm them, but I knew that when they collapsed, I figured nobody would get out of that thing.
This is an effort involving people that came in on half a day's notice. Some very anxious people, some very worried people, but yet some very thankful people for the hospitality that only the people of Gander and surrounding area can show.
These strangers are just taking us into their home. And it was not just taking us into their home. It was, here's the bathroom, here's fresh towels, here's the refrigerator, there's plenty of food. And then what they said is, now you know where the house is. The door is open.
I gotta tell you, this experience with your town has just been beyond belief. We were buying some clothes earlier for the extra day stay, and the shopping clerk actually invited us to her house to take a shower. So
maybe I'm just tight, I don't know,
There's
but I
not one
wouldn't be
person that
clothes
we've come
shopping
across who
for
hasn't
one
offered
day.
to help us in some way. It's overwhelming.
My son is a fireman, but I know this is not New York. And your heart really went out to them. And I tried to get them to come up here and stay, but they wouldn't leave the Legion because they were afraid they'd miss a phone call.
She was fantastic to us, and so was everybody else, but Beulah was special.
She was like a mother.
I wonder if some of these people still, you know, stay in touch
I
with them.
talked to her, tried to take her mind off things, but I know I didn't do that because you can't take a mother's mind off her child.
They keep telling you, keep faith, he'll be fine, you'll find him, he'll find his way out. I says, if anybody can, Kevin will, you know.
But does he? Does he? Are they going to tell us? It's
But
got to
that
be cold.
anxiety was
You know,
quickly replaced by gratitude.
September
Gratitude
up in
for the
Canada,
exceptional acts of
in a
kindness
sports hall.
and comfort offered
It
by
must have been
ordinary
freezing.
people.
Everybody just put everything on hold to take care of us.
Diane Kershke of Houston is traveling home alone after visiting her son's family in Huntington, England. In Gander, she has met another passenger from Continental Flight 5. His name is Nick Morrison, a button-up oil industry engineer from Worcester, England, on his way to Texas for business.
Worcester?
Originally scheduled to fly on
Worcester.
September 10th, his company had postponed his trip by one fateful day at the last minute.
And you perhaps don't have time to stop and examine where you are. And all of a sudden, you're plucked out of this everyday life for 4 days. And yes, you do get a chance to examine where you
4
are
days.
and where you want to go.
That was my next question. How long did this
U.S. airspace
last?
reopens on Thursday, September 13th.
Damn.
Over the next 3 days, the Gander airport once again becomes a swarm of activity.
US airspace closed for 4 days. That must have cost them billions of
because
dollars.
they didn't know if they were ever going to see, and probably never will see, a lot of those people again. But there was also a lot of friendships developed from it. So there was a sense of sadness, but a sense of relief that I did something good to help those people.
Go on, Gander.
We rode on a school
Real
bus
ones.
to go back to the airport to leave.
Canadian
And
kindness.
of course, I had already been crying because we were leaving the people that we'd met here.
All of us, as we were leaving, tried to leave some money with the people. And they wouldn't take it. They'd just look at us and they'd say, no, you do the same for us.
Once the flight is airborne, Brooks Jones asks the pilot if she can make an announcement. A request, really, for passengers to donate money toward a scholarship fund for graduates of Lewisport Collegiate School, where so many have spent their days in Newfoundland. When Delta 15 touches down in Atlanta, the passengers and crew, who for days were left wondering if anyone remembered them, are surprised by the warm, enthusiastic welcome they received.
They seem very excited, obviously, to be back home, but I wonder how many of them were just like genuinely nervous to go on the plane after what happened.
Stressful days, with the
Be a
thought
bit
of
wary,
two
me.
hijacked American Airlines flights still fresh in her mind.
And it's the first chance I've had to look to the right, and that's when I saw the American flag. That was it. That was the first time that my emotions came into play.
It's just such an American thing, isn't it? I saw the flag and
George
I burst
Vitale
into
returns
tears.
home to a New York deeply wounded by 9/11.
I'm looking at that Manhattan skyline in front of me, and there's this gaping hole. And I remember becoming so overwhelmed emotionally that I just broke out in tears.
Broke out into tears.
I've made lifelong
so you start
friends.
crying.
It's kind of like,
I mean, it's okay to
if
say it,
this evil attack by evil people
Guys
never
cry all
happened,
the
I would have
time.
never met on the complete opposite end of the spectrum the most wonderful people on earth.
The O'Rourkes finally arrive home on Saturday afternoon, 4 days after they were diverted to Gander. It will be 9 more days before they finally get the call they had been dreading.
Damn.
Kevin's body has been recovered in the rubble of the North Tower.
I know Kevin so well. He'd be the last man out if it was his way.
So 13
He'd get
days in
everybody
all
out
it took for
before
them to
himself,
find out.
and that'd be it. That's the type.
How do you even
He was.
sleep like a minute while you're waiting? Godspeed, Kevin.
The regular rhythm of everyday life in Gander returns quickly following that extraordinary weekend.
Back to the bingo.
Schools are schools again. Churches fill on Sundays. Shirley Brooks Jones has returned 17 times to give back to the people who were so generous to her.
Wow. So this was filmed at the latest 2018 then. So it's quite
She
a
is now
new
a freshman.
documentary.
We've become very, very close. They're my second family, really.
That's cool.
The Gander experience also forms a new family. After their impulsive goodbye kiss, Nick Marson and Diane Kershke, living an ocean apart, continue to phone and write each other.
Damn.
He visits her in October 2001 and again in December, and ultimately arranges to be transferred to the Houston office. On September 7th, 2002,
Whoa.
they are married.
Damn.
And for their honeymoon, they return to Gambo. The community welcomes them back with a song written just for them.
They got their own song. Damn.
So when you said to your friends in England, I was stranded in Gander, but I met this lady from Texas. They say, Nick, what's going on with you here?
One of my friends said to me, has she got that Texas twang? And I said, yes. And you still love her?
Doesn't sound very British. And I would love a girl with a southern Texas accent. Wouldn't mind a country girl. Southern belle.
Can never thank them enough. It's unbelievable what these people have done.
Gander seems
the
lit.
love that's
Just
here.
full of the nicest people on the planet.
Everything, you know, it's just unbelievable.
So in many ways, Gander played
Gander.
a critical role, not just in getting people through that time, but as an example of what humanity can be when it's at its best.
Well, I think there was a lady, she was 80 years of age, and when she was leaving, I think she summed it all up. She said, when I heard about what had happened in the world, I had lost all faith in mankind. But after spending 5 days here with you people, you've restored my faith. There still is good people lifting our world.
In a lakeside park just outside of Gander, there is this monument to the local residents who put their lives on hold to help 7,000 strangers stranded far from home on a terrifying
That looked
day.
so much grander when they were introduced, didn't it?
Here, every minute of every hour, thousands of acts of kindness were repeated. Amid so much savagery, so much confusion, the people of Gander and Canada were a glowing reminder. A reminder of the best that we can be when the need is the greatest.
How many times did it say Gander in this documentary? We're gonna get one more Gander? Go on.
If you ever need your faith restored in human kindness, that should be compulsory viewing.
Well, it's a great place. I love Newfoundland and Labrador. I've been up there fishing, and they're just very representative of the people. It's a harsh land.
Say it.
And they settled it a long time ago, and as
Say
they
Gander.
say to us, this is how we get along here. We help each other out. And
how many places on Earth could that have happened in?
well, I don't know. I think that the best of humankind comes out during a tragedy. It's going on right now in Chile, I'm sure, today during this great devastation.
What's going on in Chile?
To bring people together in that fashion. So that's a very good symbol for the rest of the world to look at, Gander.
Stories that came out of that terrible Tuesday in 2001.
He did it. He said it. The
that was one
madman.
of them.
Well, the other thing that we felt strongly is that not enough Americans knew about it. And because of the chaos after 9/11, we
That's
were
true.
consumed, understandably,
I didn't know
with
about
trying
it.
to put our country back
I mean, I'm
together.
not American, but I know
And
now.
so one that
I now
it played
know
out
the legend
over a
of
long
Gander.
period of time, and the passengers remain grateful to this day.
Compelling. Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Thank you,
Brokaw.
Tom.
We'll get back to speed skating.
Well, there we go. There was the YouTube documentary Operation Yellow Ribbon, which was all about planes being diverted to Gander during 9/11. When I was researching it just before I started recording this video, I see that there's a documentary called You Are Here, 2018, and it's about Operation Yellow Ribbon. I don't think it's what we just watched, but it's the same year, so it's quite a coincidence. It's saying it's a documentary and a musical. I mean, would you consider that a musical, what we just watched? Canadian documentary focusing on Gander. The film profiles some of the real people who were portrayed in the 2013 stage musical Come From Away. I was thinking about watching that, but I'm not gonna lie, that sounds horrendous. So I think I'll give that one a pass. Anyway, the guy at the end was right. Not a lot of Americans know about Operation Yellow Ribbon. Same in the UK. I think if I went up to anybody that I know in the UK and asked them if they knew what it was, they'd say no. I didn't know either until it was recommended, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it's not really much of a surprise to me. Canadians are just known for their politeness, their kindness, and I'm sure probably not a lot goes on in Gander, so they were probably talking about this for years and years, but nevertheless, it was super nice of them. The thing that surprised me and made me sort of most happy was when they were mentioning that they needed prescriptions and they were going into pharmacies and they didn't even have to pay for their medicine. They were just like, take the medicine. That was really pretty amazing of them. But that's all for now. There are other documentaries out there on 9/11. There's endless ones on all sorts of different things. I do have other things that have been recommended, so I'll check another one out pretty soon. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.